What's going on, guys? Philip at Trade Genius. All right, on October 25th, we had a big up bar, came on the heels of the Chinese and some pro blockchain announcements that hit social media. And we come to find out that basically the Chinese government is now pro blockchain, pro crypto, essentially. So I wanted to dive into that in this video, talk about the implications of not only the price in Bitcoin, but then the other Chinese related alts as well, and as well as how this is going to affect the ecosystem going forward. So we'll cover all of that in this video. So let's dive in.
Trade Genius.
All right, guys. So sometimes going to Twitter is like the best way to disseminate the information coming out of China, the translation from Chinese. I find like the best breakdowns are going to be on Twitter. So going to Make Believe Capital's thread here on the whole Chinese stance on crypto. I'm going to go through a few notes that were posted on this thread, and then we'll take a look at a couple other things. So he states, I lean towards believing we had a paradigm shift for BTC demand given news from China. Similar to how the halving function reduces demand, CCP officially making blockchain a strategic pillar is like a step function in demand creation that permeates into the ecosystem in the next 1 to 2 years. I largely agree with that. What he's saying is that when you have the halving take place, you're reducing the output. So even though demand stays constant, it's like having an increase in demand because your supply is getting cut in half. Now throw on the fact that China's green lighting their stance on blockchain and crypto and the like. Now you've just poured gas on that situation. So this halving cycle is probably going to see more potential for growth than we've seen in past halving cycles, because China's just been in a gray area. Sometimes it's things are banned in China as far as crypto. Sometimes they're not. Maybe it's in the middle. But now they've kind of said, no, this is something that we need to grab hold of. We need to make part of our ecosystem. So anyway, we'll get further into this, but that's what he meant by that. I'm going to skip down to actually where it talks about how this affects the BTC and the crypto ecosystem. So how good is it for BTC in terms of demand? Well, first one has to realize that in China, the policies follow the premier's tone and permeates down. Xi sets the tone, subsidies and policies follow, and ultimately gets carried out in detail in local regions. This likely won't be a one-day event, aside of course from frontrunners and speculative flow initially, but will be a consistent bombardment and marketing regarding blockchain into all walks of life over the next 1 to 2 years. What the West will see is all of a sudden every company will talk about being blockchain enabled, blockchain being on CCTV every other day, colleges opening courses, and K through 12 materials being written to include the very basics of blockchain. The second thing is crypto blockchain will no longer be called a fraud in public press. Once Xi has spoken, it will be political suicide for any scholars or government officials otherwise. This is a tremendous 180 turn in public image. And if you've been in crypto for a few years, you'll know that that's kind of what the Chinese do. There's a constant flip-flopping, but I think this is the final flop back to pro blockchain now, everything going forward. There isn't going to be this risk of Chinese saying things are banned again. In fact, I think we're going to see things like ICOs open back up. And in fact, there was a funny link to another Twitter thread, CN Ledger. They talk about Chinese and crypto-related things. So now articles saying blockchain technology is a scam are now being banned. And then he notes, remember the days when posts promoting blockchain were getting deleted real fast. So the government's basically now keeping with pro-blockchain. Anything against that is getting regulated or banned. So that's very, very interesting. So, and very, very bullish. I mean, this is really exciting stuff as far as, because they are a huge force and a huge part of the crypto market, like it or not. So this is really going to accelerate growth, I believe. But anyway, back to the breakdown here. The third thing so now you have rapid awareness and decreased stigma. It will be impossible for those to ignore BTC when studying blockchain. For any startups, subsidy receivers in the industry, it would be impossible for them not consider putting something into BTC. So to conclude, the speed to adoption, awareness plus skepticism phase has been accelerated, and one can clearly observe funding nationally flowing into the field. This is a rather significant demand event that not many saw coming and would likely prompt a US response. This isn't necessarily bullish. Some China chains like Neo, TRX, Aunt, I'll even throw in WTC, Walton Chain. They could still pump, but more likely than not, the scams will be eradicated, as the joke in China goes. When the People's Army sets base in a mountain, they first clean out the robbers. So again, that's another net positive effect. Doesn't mean BTC can go lower in the interim. Chart says chop for a while, but this event is something to be extra mindful of, as it actually drives both narrative and fundamentals, i.e. demand, similar to the halving being a supply or disinflationary event. Okay, so if we take all of that into consideration, right? So now China, and make no mistake, China's been buying and participating in crypto, but they've had to kind of go around. Now, this is just basically greenlighting that, hey, you don't have to detour to get into crypto, trade crypto, whatever, accumulate crypto, even though that's been happening. But now this is just really going to open the floodgates for the entire country, basically, to get into this and stimulate more funds into the ecosystem. So if we look at the longer term charts, and I'll wrap it up there, you'll notice, again, we've referenced the stock to flow graph many times. And essentially what we're looking at is when the halving event starts here, if we look at the stock to flow valuation, right? Because that's going to affect how much flow there is, right? So stock to flow ratio, how much flow on an annual basis would it take to replenish the current stock, right? So the more finite the amount of, or the resources or the commodity is, the higher the stock to flow ratio. So we're going up to where gold is, and essentially the price calculation for that gets us over 6 figures. Currently, that's a big step function, right? Because that's just looking at each day. Basically, what the more realistic thing is to smooth the stock to flow ratio pricing with a 365-day moving average. And by doing so, you get a more realistic growth rate, okay? So as we approach the halving and past halving, that's why most of the price growths are post-halving. You'll see a big jump, and it finally catches up with the one-day stock to flow. We also have this red line, which is the difference between the daily stock to flow, which is taking into account how many blocks are actually mined, because it's a 10-minute average, but sometimes it's over more blocks or less blocks are mined depending on the hash rate that given day. So that fluctuates. So you have that with the 365-day average, and you also get this price differential model, which is the difference between the two. And so you'll see a price of 10,000. Which is kind of like what I would basically say is probably your target for the price model. And right now we're currently under that. But so basically we should be probably around that red line. So around 10,000 would be the fair value price. So we're a little discounted there. And we're going to be above that and below that. So if we get really above that, that's when things get overblown. Usually end of the halving cycle growth phase, and then we pull back and rest. But again, we've got institutional investments now online. The custodian issues that were questions in the past have now been solved. So basically now you've got full green light for institutional investment, pensions, big funds, things like that. You've got the largest population on the planet in China. They're basically giving the green light to crypto. So this next halving phase, this next jump is not going to be like this last one or this last one back here, okay? This is probably where we're going to see the largest spike in terms of dollars going up. So it's going to be a wild ride. And that's why I say even now, don't sweat really, trying to catch the bottom here. I mean, the bottom was in at 3,000 and you're trying to look for a pullback, and some are saying we're going to get to the 6s. I mean, it's really not going to matter a whole lot. I think once you just have to get positioned in here and get into this next phase, especially for this is like your long-term holds. If you're trading Bitcoin, going to have tons of opportunity. That's another great way to grow Bitcoin holdings, but you should have a stash that is there for the long-term haul. And this is really exciting over the course of the next 12 to 24 months, I think, for the hodlers. This is going to be the one I think that really makes a huge difference in the amount of millionaires that are being made with Bitcoin. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this video. I hope it helps. Always appreciate you guys watching our videos. Please hit like and subscribe. It really helps out our channel, helps us get you content. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Trade Genius.